Tokyo is considered by many as one of the best cities in the world. With its 35 million inhabitants, it is by far the most populated city. It hasn't always been this way though. Let's take a look at the evolution of Tokyo. Originally named Edo, the city started flourishing. The Tokugawa and the leyasu established the Tokugawa shogunate, a military government in 1603. As the center of politics and culture of Japan, Edo grew into a quite big city, with over 1 million people living there. The Edo period lasted for nearly 260 years until the Meiji Restoration in 1868, when the Tokugawa shogunate ended and the imperial rule was restored. The emperor moved to Edo, which was renamed Tokyo, and was set as the capital of the country. During the Meiji era, Japan began making the shift into Western civilization. Buildings made of stone and bricks, and the major roads were paved with round stones. In 1869, Japan's first telecommunications line was opened between Tokyo and Yokohama. In 1885, the cabinet system of government was adopted, and Ito Hirobumi became Japan's first prime minister with the promulgation of the Constitution of the Empire of Japan. In 1889, Japan established the political system of a modern state. During the Taisho era, which lasted from 1912 to 1926, the number of people working in the cities increased, and a great proportion of the people began leading consumer lifestyles. Educational standards improved, and performing arts thrived in Tokyo. In September 1923, Tokyo was devastated by the Great Kanto earthquake. The fire caused by the earthquake burned the city to the ground. Over 140,000 people were reported dead or missing, and 300,000 houses were destroyed. Shortly after the earthquake, the Showa era began. In a mood of gloom with all the loss of life from the natural disaster, Japan opened its first subway line between Asakusa and Ueno in 1927. In 1931, Tokyo Airport was completed at Haneda, and 10 years later, the port of Tokyo was opened. By 1935, the resident population of Tokyo had grown to 6.36 million. Comparable to the populations of New York and London. In 1941, the Pacific War broke out and had a great impact on Tokyo. In the final phase of the war, Tokyo was bombed 100 times. The heaviest bombings was on March 10, 1945. The war came to an end on September 2, 1945. Much of the city was destroyed by the bombings, and the population had fallen to 3.5 million, half of what it was in 1940. The 1950s were a time of gradual recovery for the nation. Television broadcasting began in 1953, and Japan joined the United Nations in 1956. In 1962, the population of Tokyo reached the 10 million mark. 2 years later, the Olympic Games were held in Tokyo, and with it the Shinkansen, also known as the bullet train line, began operations, forming the foundations of Tokyo's current prosperity. Entering the 1970s, the effects of the economic growth of the 60s became apparent with environmental issues, such as pollution of the air and rivers. In the 1980s, Tokyo became one of the world's most active major cities, boasting attractions such as cutting-edge technology, information, culture, and fashion, as well known for a high level of public safety. In the 1990s, Tokyo was hit with a financial crisis due to sinking tax revenues. Tokyo was, however, able to overcome this financial crisis, and in 1997, for the first time in 12 years, there were more people moving into Tokyo than leaving. and a few years later, in 2001, Tokyo's population reached 12 million. In March 2011, the Great East Japan earthquake hit the Tohoku region, and Tokyo was seriously affected. Using the experiences gained from this disaster, Tokyo is said to be strengthening its crisis management system. In September 2013, Tokyo was selected to host its second Olympics and Paralympic Games in 2020. Tokyo has worked to make those Olympic Games an example of how a city should host the Olympics, with examples of how to care for the environment and the promotion of culture. Nowadays, the population of Tokyo is starting to decline. Hitting its peak in 2020, the Tokyo metropolitan government is pushing to make Tokyo the best city in the world, where a balance between economic affluence and quality of life is achieved. Well, guys, I have a question for you. Have you ever visited Tokyo? Let us know in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more evolution videos.